The best part of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is they found a way to kill off Shia LaBeouf without having Shia LaBeouf in the movie. Spectacular. Hey guys, I'm Karl, welcome to my movie film show. Feel free to subscribe down below if you would like to, but we're here today for the spoiler review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If you haven't seen the score out of 10 I gave it in the last review, go check out the last review, come back here, let's talk about some spoilers. So Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, as I mentioned before in my past review, I wasn't expecting much going into it and I was pleasantly surprised at what we got. Now, the movie isn't spectacular and the runtime is a little bit long, and at times I did find myself getting bored, but I also found myself with a big smile on my face at various points in the movie. The opening scene for me was fantastic. They set up the movie really well. The CGI / de-aging is still questionable in my opinion. Eyes in particular, quite strange. But overall that scene was really well done. The weird part was when Mads Mikkelsen is on the roof of the train, on top of the train with Indy and the other guy, and the battle happens, and all of a sudden a big thing comes along and whacks Mads Mikkelsen off the edge of the train. You're like, well, that's him done. I remember I almost jumped out of my seat going, whoa, that was really cool. But somehow he survives that in the future. He's just still alive. Pretty sure that would kill everybody. But you do get some wackiness in Indiana Jones. Some of the set pieces in the movie, some of the big scenes, like the chase through the streets when Indy's on a horse and there's a big parade going on. That was really cool visual. There's some spectacular visuals throughout the movie. The train scene as well was spectacular, the visuals in that. The filmmakers did a really good job of setting up these big scenes and making the movie have this epic scale to it, especially towards the end. We'll get into that in a little while. Now, interestingly, I've seen some debate online. Some people like the movie and some people don't like the movie. One of the clear things that's coming across on Twitter, very clear things, is that some people are just idiots and will, piss all over a movie for stupid reasons. One of the reasons I've seen people giving out about is because Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in it. She's a female character who's just as good as Indy at solving problems, and she overshadows Indy. Bollocks. She's in there and I think she's really going to compliment to Indy. They haven't done the stupid passing out the torch, which I was kind of expecting to do, and they haven't done something stupid like go to a different multiverse and she's Indiana Jones in a different multiverse. That could have been some stupid shit they did, especially when they include time travel. A lot of movies have messed with time or involved time and just completely ruins their movie. You haven't seen Why I Hate Looper. I have a whole video about that and why the movie doesn't make sense. Now, the story in the movie is nothing spectacular. Like, they're looking for a piece of treasure and they're trying to outrace the Nazis, and they get to it first and then the Nazis take it from them. It's kind of exactly what happened in Raiders, and then the Nazis use it. It doesn't quite go the way they want and it caused the death of the Nazi guy. His face doesn't melt off this time, but he ends up getting killed in the past. Now, there is questions in that final scene. This is the spoiler review, so if I'm spoiling stuff for you, that's the whole point. Let's skip to the end of the movie when they go to the past. Some people are saying this is kind of a stupid part of the movie that actually doesn't make sense. Kind of does. There was various points in it where they could have tripped over themselves, but they very clearly put a lot of thought into the scene, what doesn't make sense and what does make sense, and stuff they could kind of get away with. You've got the whole point of them going back to when Archimedes was there, and Archimedes sees these dragons in the sky, something he's never seen before, planes. Then he finds the Nazi guy with the Dial of Destiny and the watch, which they've previously found him in his tomb, and he's wearing a watch, and then he's like, how the hell does he have a watch? They wouldn't have had watches back then. It turns out he just took it off the Nazi guy. Now, they could have done the whole stupid thing of Archimedes finds the thing with the Nazi guy and then he just has them, and that's how he came up with them. But that would have been really stupid, wouldn't have made sense, because if he didn't invent them in the first place, they wouldn't have had them to go back in time. It's a whole paradox. But thankfully it didn't go that way. They clearly showed that Archimedes gave them back to Indy and was like, gotta do it the proper way. Phoebe Waller-Bridge was given a lot of dialogue of a stating you'll mess up with the past and that'll affect the future, and a lot of movies don't put that in there. Butterfly effect. Even though you could claim them even going back and even meeting Archimedes and him seeing them could completely change the course of history. One thing I thought they might have been going for is leaving Indy in the past. There was clearly an emotional point they were building to of maybe this is where Indy ends. He just left in the past, left in the whole period he was studying his whole life, getting to live through everything he worked on. That would kind of be an interesting send-off for him. And they could have had the whole thing that maybe Archimedes gets killed and Harrison Ford has to take his place and do all his inventing, because he knows what he invented and how he invented it, so he could just take his place in history and do it. That could have been messy. But it's Indiana Jones. They had a movie where they just went, you know what? Aliens did it. I'm kind of rambling on speculation what they could have done. I felt they did it the best they could have for what they did. And sure, you could say, well, what have they done with the big fucking planes that crashed in the past? People in the past not be like, well, what the fuck is this big plane? What's all this technology in the plane? What's the clothes these people are wearing who have just come from the sky? Yeah, I guess you gotta just imagine that Phoebe Waller-Bridge found a way to get them through the portal again, so the people of the past didn't have them. Maybe Archimedes buried them. Who knows? Maybe that's a whole different move. You can speculate for days, and certainly one thing people are going to nitpick is how did it get away with leaving that stuff in the past. But as I say, that nitpicking with these movies, with Indiana Jones, there's a little bit of craziness at all of these movies. Get away with a lot in a lot of these movies. There's a bit of wackiness to all of it, a little bit of suspension of disbelief. The one thing I did like is how Indy, they were building up this emotional thing of Indy wanting to stay in the past. It looked like they were going to leave him in the past, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge had to just give up on it, and out of nowhere she just punched them in the face. That was really well done, because it was kind of like snap out of it, you know, back to reality, and that's literally what they did. Back to reality, back to the present day. I quite enjoyed the end of the movie and how it ramped up, but the whole visual of in the past at Syracuse, all the boats and the warriors and the city itself, it was all a spectacular set piece. As I mentioned at the beginning of the movie, the whole dialogue with Indy where he talked about how his son enlisted, and if he could go back in time, that's what he'd do. He'd stop his son enlisting so he doesn't get killed, and I was like, great, they kill off Shia LaBeouf without having Shia LaBeouf in the movie. Now, where does this movie rank amongst all the Indiana Jones movies? It's certainly top 4. It's not really saying much, but yeah, it's up for debate. Maybe over time it'll get more of a cult following. I think it was a good, if unspectacular, movie. I really enjoyed large parts of the movie. There was nothing too thrilling and nothing too awful in the movie. For me, it felt like a solid Indiana Jones movie. Every time the Indiana Jones music popped up in the movie, a big smile came across my face. And overall, quite a respectful addition to the Indiana Jones library, and certainly better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Although weirdly, I have seen people trying to say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull at least had moments. That's something I've seen a lot of people say on Twitter. This movie has loads of moments, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a big piece of shit. People are insane. That's why Twitter is just mental. It's like you can go on Twitter and there will always be people defending the stupidest points. Not just with movies, with everything in life. There will always be someone defending the stupidest things in the world. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is definitely one of the stupidest things in the world. Definitely. So I quite enjoyed Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Did you love it? Did you hate it? With all that being said, I'll catch you in the next video.